issues related to internet freedom are issues which are taking center stage in many of our countries, but there are issues which are not adequately understood by many people, or which are not being adequately addressed by many actors.
Everybody would recognize that the internet penetration rate in Africa has nearly quadrupled between 2007 and 2012. At the same time, also the use of mobile phones subscriptions has nearly tripled. The use of mobile phones have increased the public's access to outlets for the media. It is also important to note that many countries lack the technical means to filter internet content. But there has been growing concern over the setting up of monitoring mechanisms that could lead eventually to filtering.
When it comes to privacy, East African governments are increasingly effecting controls on the use of internet and associated technologies under the guise of fighting terrorism, child pornography, and cybercrime.
I think what we've seen is a maturity of users from just not being able to say anything to saying just anything, and to now being able to weigh both sides to say, you know what, someone says A, someone else says B. What exactly is the midpoint between A and B where I need to believe this? So I think we've become a lot more powerful in terms of being able to judge what is true, what is false, and what we may not be able to use as information.
Even as people think that they have rights to communicate, these rights also have limitations, which is also provided in our constitution.
In Rwanda, we have so many regulations. We don't have any promo regulation. We don't have any promo policies. We have so many policies, but the problem is the awareness. People don't know that the policies and the laws are there.
If you want to have internet access through VSAT, and you're not allowed to operate or to have VSAT. And if you want to host a website with the domain name .et, that should go.
You know, one of the challenges media leaders have on the continent is how to integrate the range of technologies that exist into their business concepts.
I can say even it's only Bujumbura, the capital city, where you can have access to internet. But also, it's not in all the offices.
Almost all our major big media houses have an online, either online or convergence editor or something. So again, you see they have a very strong online presence and competition.
All in all, the population wants and desires information that is accurate, that is usable for improving their lives.
When it comes to the media, it's about telling people's stories objectively and being balanced in a professional manner. What internet offers is a platform to express yourself. Now the issue is, how does people express themselves on the internet? How does the media actually promote that freedom to express and to freely express yourself?
The world is changing, and with the internet, things are going to change. You cannot talk about future journalism without talking about the internet, because there is so much information there.
I have a client who has imported drones for the purposes of aerial reporting as a journalist. Now, the state has no idea how that should be licensed. The Civil Aviation Authority tells us we have no regulations for drones. We don't regulate the media. The Uganda Communications Commission has no idea what drone reporting is. So the ability of the state to cope with the growth in this industry has been very low. As such, therefore, The state's response has been to the space as opposed to enhance the space. My own sense is that there's an opportunity to help the state develop legislation and policies and guidelines for the sector. And I think all of us must seize upon that opportunity at whatever level to help the state to put in place regulations and policies that enhance as opposed to threaten the sector.
So what is it that you're putting up? You know, if I meet a brother in Zanzibar and he says, I'm in Tanzania, I'm shooting film, and I want to shoot a film, I want to, shoot a documentary about the gay people in Zanzibar. Now, this is a space that has lots of Muslims. How am I going to succeed? I've already been in prison like twice in Tanzania. How am I going to make it? And I need this video to be up on Vimeo. So you need to see that as much as we want to creatively express ourselves online, we have all these limits.
What are the limits that the writer is trying to tear, to open up? So when I hear that there's a blogger that probably the government is looking for me it's exciting because the government is worried about the influence of that person rather than what that person is doing.
Different cultures socialize men and women differently, and with the socialization also comes privileges, benefits, and opportunities which are not shared equitably between men and women. And it is against that background that then we have many times seen women as victims of violence.
We've also done quite a lot of work in getting recognition for violence against women online as a form of violence against women. At the very beginning of this work, people didn't even know what kind of violation it is. When do you call something violence, and when do you call something bullying, and when do you call something an irritation? And so we began to look into this, and one of the things we began to try to understand is what is the harm? And the harm framework falls very squarely within the violence against women framework. What kinds of harm are women experiencing as a result of particular sets of actions?
Even if the law is not there, how else can women feel safe online? Because at the end of the day, you find that many women are exiting from social media because of fear. Like you're saying, you fear posting because you don't know what is going to come.
Stigmatization of human rights defenders. We'll also look at types of human rights defenders who are under the most risk, on what issues they are working on. Usually they're the human rights defenders working on women's rights or working on sexual rights, working on corruption, or any issue that might scratch the government's wrong side.
As time has gone by, we've learned through the threats, and we've been working with people like Access Now and getting more training on digital security, and also championing within our own community, training people on how to be safe on internet, and also appreciating internet being our main way that we can share information freely.
Which are some of these useful technologies, tips that I should be sending to some of these media owners so that they can start adopting them? The technology is basically mutating at a very, very fast level.
So you have a tool called BitLocker, which encrypts your hard drive. So if someone steals your computer, they cannot gain access to your data. It's all jumbled up. It's just a lot of different letters. That's one thing you can do to protect your hard drive. Then there's something else called password managers. So it's advised to change your password every 3 months, and it's advised to have a different password for each account, and no one can get access to these passwords without your master password. So you don't need to be tech savvy. Right now your data is secure. So even if WhatsApp is given a court order to release that information, WhatsApp can't, because they don't have the keys. Only you and the person you're chatting with have these keys.
Many people, when we talk about the right information, do not understand what it is or what it can do. But through this partnership, we've been able to see how information has changed lives of people. And more recently, we collaborated on the AskYourGov.ug portal, which is a platform that allows citizens to make information requests from wherever they may be, and they are also able to receive responses through that portal.
And this parliament had been in place for 10 years, from 1995 to 2005, and there was no act in place. And Parliament came up with this act in 2005.
Most ministries have resource centers. At local government levels, this is almost non-existent. We notice that much as we have the law and regulations in place, they are mainly in electronic copy, e-copy. When you go to local government levels, you can hardly find a hard copy, making it a challenge to access public information.
We are aware that with the number of internet users increasing, the need to fight cybercrime is gaining wide acceptance the world over. And cyber fraud, child pornography, hate speech, cyberbullying, and the promotion of terrorism are becoming a concern for many players. Now, while these may be genuine concerns, governments and intermediaries and law enforcement agencies have been faulted for using them for curtailing freedom of expression online.
There are some things that we do at Facebook which I think are interesting to note, and one is around the issue of due process. So I think many governments are very interested in being able to just talk to Facebook and say, hey, this particular thing offends us, could you take it down? One of the things that we cannot do as a company is do that. So due process is a critical thing, but again, if you talk about complexity, what is due process? So what is due process in Uganda? Is that the same as due process in Kenya? Is that the same as due process in Nigeria? Is that the same as due process in Saudi Arabia?
When you're dealing with cybercrime, you're not just dealing with country crime, but you're dealing with transnational, borderless crime. So we partner together with other enforcement agencies on different platforms to ensure that people are safe and what we call clicking clever while you're online.
One of the key issues we have is what is acceptable in one country might not be acceptable in another. So in terms of the laws that are applicable at the international vis-a-vis the national level, there is always a difference in that, because whereas maybe Uganda says no to pornography, another country will say, I'll allow pornography as long as it is controlled in terms of distribution.
We need to internalize this, that criminal defamation exists in all African countries except for Ghana, Niger, Chad, and Gabon now. All the countries that are represented here have criminal defamation in their statute books. Those statute books laws would apply to you whether you are an offline commentator or online commentator or somebody who's going to the river and passes that information to a third party.